Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Morale and I'm here to make GCSE Maths simple and your life stress-free for you. Okay, today we're kicking things off with Introduction to Algebra, the foundation of so many topics in math. If algebra feels confusing, don't worry. By the end of this video, you'll understand the basics and feel confident in tackling problems involving algebra. So, grab your notes and let's dive in. First, let's define algebra. So algebra is like solving puzzles in maths. Instead of working only with numbers, we use letters to represent unknown values. For example, if we say x plus 3, x represents an unknown value. So we're basically looking at what number plus 3 gives us 7. Nice and easy, right? 4 plus 3 gives us 7. So in this case, the value of x is equal to 4. Nice and simple, right? Now, the letter X stands for an unknown number, which in this case was 4. And so your job is to figure that out, basically, to find out the unknown. Now, there's many things that we can do with these unknown letters, which we'll look into in the future lessons, but let's just kind of dive into the foundation of things, so the most basic things to do with algebra. Now, let's talk about the rules of algebra. There are 3 main kind of basic rules to algebra. First, letters behave like numbers. So, for example, if we have x plus 5 that is equal to 10, x represents an unknown value, right? In this case, nice and simple, is 5. But letters in algebra always represent numbers. They always behave like numbers as well. Second rule is they follow the rules of BODMAS. BIDMAS or BODMAS, whichever you're familiar with, but they work in the same way. So again, if we have 2x plus 3 is equal to 12, first we got to deal with the multiplication, then we deal with the addition. Does that make sense? So rules of BODMAS, brackets, order of operations or indices. If we're looking at BIDMAS, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, we always go with those orders when we're dealing with letters as well, because they, like I said, behave like numbers as well. Now, balancing the equation. So the third rule is we want to balance equations. We want to have an equation that is balanced. So whatever you do to one side of the equation, you're always going to do the same to the other. Right? Let's try a few examples and look at these rules in a bit more depth. So, let's look at the first one. We have x plus 4. So we want to isolate x. We want to get x on its own so we can find out what its value is equal to. It's nice and simple, the first one, so you can think of it in terms of what do I add to 4 to get to 9, which in this case is 5, of course. But we can also look at it like this. If I want to isolate x and get x by itself, I'm going to subtract 4. I'm going to do this to both sides. Remember, we balance the equation. So x minus 4 is equal to just x, and 9 minus 4 is equal to 5. So x is equal to 5. That's the value of x, the unknown, and we just solved it, right? Now, easy, right? Let's look at the next one, 3x minus 2. Now remember, we want to isolate x to get x by itself. But in order to do that, first we get rid of anything else that is not being multiplied by x. So if we look over here, 3x, when there's no sign between them, that means 3 is being multiplied by x. So we leave that to the end. First we deal with a number that doesn't have an x associated with it, right? It's minus 2, so we're always going to do the opposite. We're going to add 2 to both sides. That leaves us with 3x is equal to 15, right? Then the next thing is sides. So to get x by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 3. That leaves us with x is equal to 5. Does that make sense? Right? So whatever we do to one side of the equation, we always do it to the other. Right? Notice how we follow the rules that we mentioned earlier on? Now, let's look at an example. Now, I want you to try and do this one on your own. I'll go through the answers, but pause the video and just try and do this one by yourself. Right, let's double check and see if you got the right answer. Follow through and double check. So 2x plus 7, we want to isolate x on its own. So first we're going to deal with the plus 7. We're going to do the opposite the reverse operation. So we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. That leaves us with 2x is equal to 8. 2 is being multiplied by x, so again the reverse operation is going to be that we're going to divide both sides by 2. 2x divided by 2, these two cancel each other out and leave us with x, which is exactly what we wanted because we're solving for x. 8 divided by 2 leaves us with 4, so x is equal to 4. Is that what you got? Hopefully that's what you got, and hope all that makes sense. Let's go over some quick tips and common mistakes to do with simple algebra. So always, as I've been saying, we always want to isolate the variable being the unknown, in this case x, so we want to get x on its own. That's the first thing. Second thing is, don't forget to reverse the operation. So what that basically means that if you have 2x plus 5 is equal to 10, the first thing that you're going to deal with is the minus 5, but always reverse the operation. So rather than subtracting 5 from both sides, we're always going to reverse and add. So always remember to do the opposite operation. If it's added, you subtract. If it's divided, you multiply. If it's multiplied, you divide, and vice versa. So the next step is 2 is multiplied by the x, so we're going to divide it, which is the opposite operation, right? And finally, always double check your work by plugging in the value that you got back into the original question. So that means if I'm looking at, let's look at an example. So if I'm saying 2x minus 2 is equal to 10, then the first thing is I'm going to do the reverse. I want to isolate the x, so I'm going to do the reverse operation, which in this case is add 2. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. That leaves me with 2x is equal to 12. Now, if I want to get x to find the value of x, I'm going to do the reverse operation once again. 2 is being multiplied by x, so I'm going to divide it. Once I do that, that leaves me with x is equal to 6. Now, the last one is we're going to double check our work. So basically, that means I'm going to substitute the x back into this problem. So 2 multiplied by x, which I'm saying is equal to 6, minus 2, does that give us 10? So 2 times 6, that's 12. 12 minus 2, that does give me 10. So that is the correct answer. So you can always substitute the answer that you've got back into the problem to the original equation and see if you get the right answer. If you didn't, then you know you've made a mistake. You go back and double check your work. If you got the right numbers, then perfect, we can move on. Right, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that is it for today's lesson on algebra. The very basics of algebra. There's much more to do. Algebra is such a big topic, and we're going to cover that over the next couple of weeks. But I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more GCSE Maths tips and tutorials. Leave a comment below with any questions, or let me know what topics you'd like me to go over next. And don't forget to check out my upcoming videos on linear equations and algebraic expressions. Hope that all makes sense. Have a lovely day. Bye!